Said one, two, three in a place to be. It's your player partners from the bottom of the map.
From the bottom of the map.
It's your dog is real.
I Hayes in the place to be.
You already know what time it is. Before you jump in, make sure you like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell your baby with your auntie now. Tap in with us.
You see, we told a couple of them we got that there for you, little bud. Wait, real quick. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh.
Um, Before we jump all the way in, man, I want to give this was a big weekend, and I did get a chance to check out quite a few podcasts. So shout out to all the other podcasts out here, especially my dog South Coast Kane.
South Coast came, boy.
I listened to their post game, man. It was pretty I like all the podcasts and all the different formats. You got some that do a lot of the fan interaction. You got some that's a little bit more
Mm,
corporate because they're sponsored by the school. You got some like Coach Hayes to do more to play
mm.
breakdown. But your players from the bottom of the map. You know how we gonna get it to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We gonna give you that adulterated truth. Sometimes you gonna like it, boy. Sometimes you ain't gonna like it, but I'm gonna get it to you straight, boy. No chase.
All right, man. Well, you already know what we got to discuss. So go ahead, man. Jump in. What was your thoughts on the game? How did you feel? And I guess this is the question I want to ask over everything. After everything you've seen, is Miami where you thought they would be, or are they overrated?
Um. Well, I gotta apologize. You feel me? Cause last week I was talking crazy. Remember, I was like, we undefeated, national
National championship.
championship. I was drinking all that. I said, nah, nah, nah. I'm going in. I don't care. I don't care. And y'all boys kind of said, look, man, this could be a trap game. They playing themselves every week, and I took my eye off the ball, and I felt like we struck out because I think I came into this season. I think everybody did. We gonna have at least two losses. We could go undefeated, but I was like two or three. And so, at the end of the day, they exceeded that. Last week, I got back down to earth, and also looking at your opponent, underestimating your opponent. It's a reason that Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. It's a reason that what I'm saying, a lot of highly rated teams, or that Georgia barely beat Kentucky because you're not respecting your opponent. Virginia Tech is 2-2, but that's a deceiving record. Them boys is good. You feel me? Them boys, what I'm saying? Their quarterback did what he had to do. They've always been known for special teams. That happened as well. So, um, Miami is better than who I thought they were coming into the season, but you got to tamper down the expectations and go back to reality. So I think they're a good football team, but I think as always, I think that Mario is the ceiling. I think we have, and this is just my opinion, we got the talent to stack up against a lot of the Georgias and the Alabamas, just talent wise, right? And I understand that Alabama has that highly rated freshman. No, we don't have that, but any kid from South Florida is gonna be able to step up. Like if you have the right coaching, you can tap into that talent. How do we know that? Because we watched SMU this weekend, and I always loved Brashard Smith. I thought he was to do everything. So to watch him be able to take run plays, be a running back and a wide receiver, Swiss Army knife. I think Jordan Lyles could be that. I think we got a lot of players that can do a lot of things, but it's just a matter of our coaching. Now, I think our coaching is what brought me back to reality because when I look at players who are talented not perform, it always comes back to coaching. And we watched other games with great teams and we realized that whether you're up or you're down, it's about the coaching. How did
Mhm.
Georgia get back in the game? Coaching. We don't have that. And I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me was that we don't have that. Here's an ugly truth, right? And UM fans are gonna disagree with me. But I think you got to take off your blinders. We should have lost that game. That was a catch. There was not enough. It's about the play. It's not about whether it was the wrong call. Once there's a play on the field, there has to be indisputable evidence. I felt like, what I'm saying, I looked at it and I tried to analyze it myself. And as a UM fan, I'm divided. I guess I'm kind of happy we got away with the win, but then I'm like, if you guys would have lost, that would have made them have a better response. But if I wasn't a UM fan, nah, I feel like they're robbing. I feel like a conspiracy. I feel like it's cheating. I don't want to hear about that. And you see that. You could call it UM hate, but nah, a lot of people got a lot of love for UM and they bet on us. But when they looked at that game and they looked at that catch, I'm like, And it reminds me of which I told you that. It's the same ref who gave us that good luck against Duke. And you know what? Like when we look at that miracle, it was fine. But I looked at a couple of them crackbacks and I was like, there was a couple of illegal hits. They looked like a couple of illegal hits. All them laterals, one of them laterals did look off. I'm just saying, I ain't gonna trip, and I'm not finna go argue down the fact that we need to deserve to lose. But I am painting the picture that the rest of the country is not crazy. Yeah, I guess like I said, I'm happy, but I want to win fair and square. I don't want to win on disputed cause. I want the coaches to put people in the right positions to be able to say. And when you look at that last play, man, coaching is gonna be what it's gonna be. If we would have lost that game, it still would have been above average, right? Because we expected, like now, because we're so good, we expect to go undefeated. When it's like, y'all remember who your coaches are, right? You do remember we have Mario Cristobal as our coach. Let's not act like he's somebody he's not. You got to know who he is. And he is a guy that is not going to develop as a coach. He can't go to halftime and come up and fire up the team, because deep down, everybody in college football knows this. This guy is an excellent recruiter, elite recruiter, but he ain't trying to learn to coach a goddamn thing. And I think that's just what it is. That's why you have a team like Virginia Tech, who probably has the 35th, maybe the top 40 recruiting class, getting in there and running all over us missing tackles and reverting back to a lot of old things. But I'm like, all of that is coaching. When your best players are not doing what they have been doing. And the other part of it is, I mean, shit, yeah, we played good against South Florida, and I think South Florida is good, but I don't think that we took this opponent seriously. And once again, that's on coaching. No adjustments, no nothing, because our head coach is not that guy. So it just reminded me of, well, this is your head coach. You're going to have a great season, but when you go to the playoffs, you're gonna get your ass whooped. You're gonna get your ass whooped. Bernie Mac, you gonna get your ass whooped. And then don't act surprised. Don't act surprised. Be just enjoy what you can. So that's my thoughts, bro.
Yeah, I don't think like after watching that game, I don't think they're they dropped in the rankings. So I still don't think they're the eighth best team after even watching like all the rest of the games that happened Saturday. I don't think they're the eighth best team.
Nah, they not. They not.
I think they're
That
more around 15 to 20. I think
you
that's
know,
what.
that's blasphemy though to the fans. And you know what? I would love to do that, but it's like you're right, bro. We're really between. I would say we're between 13 and 17.
13 and
Definitely
17, I think, would be more of a good placement. When I think of teams that may have like one loss, maybe like a team that's out in a like the Pac-10, Pac-12, not even Pac-12, but like a Colorado, not Colorado, but one of those teams that they're good, they're solid, but they're not one of the top elite teams. I think Miami and Cam kind of brought some of the publicity and the hype, and it's pushing them up forward, and they look so good in those first four games. But you got to look at who they were playing against. You played against a Florida team that's the wheels are falling off. FAMU, of course, you're supposed to beat them. Ball State, you're supposed to beat, and South Florida, you are supposed to beat. But once you get into league play, once you get into conference play, we all know it gets a little bit different. These are
it
teams
does.
familiar with you, like the game plans and the schemes. Like when you're playing a Ball State, or so you're not used to playing that team, so you're not familiar with their personnel, you're not familiar with their schemes. This is like you kind of putting a lot of new information on the players. Once you get in the conference play, these games are going to get tougher. And it's going to be some teams, and I said it last week, it's going to be some teams that is just going to scheme you up really well. The coaches are going to scheme you up really well, and you're going to have to, like we saw in the Alabama Georgia game, like it's going to come down to coaching. Even when we see in the national championship game last year, like Jim Harbaugh, and like you see the difference that coaching makes in college football. Like it is a difference. Once that first level of talent kind of evens out, your coaches got to make adjustments. The thing that I was kind of disturbed about is South Florida's coach came up with a game plan to try to, even though they're both South Florida teams, like we're gonna try to just go so up tempo. We're gonna see who passes out first. And I'm thinking like, okay, that was a good strategy, but like you said, it couldn't hold up. I'm thinking Virginia Tech is not. They're not a warm weather team. They from the cold. Why wasn't Miami employing some of that strategy to kind of try to wear them out? I'm thinking like, what strategies would they use against a Virginia Tech that would give them like an advantage, like coaching wise, because we all everybody keeps saying this talent shit, talent. Like we're past that. We've been had more talent. We always got more talent. We have talent up and down our roster. We got talent that we can't even put on the field that transfers to other schools and they shine over there because we just don't have enough space for them because it's too much talent. So at what point do we say the coaching has to get better as a whole entire fan base as the administration because we before we said we needed more recruiting, we needed better talent. Okay, we literally we got that, we got the best in the transfer portal, we got the top recruiting class. After that point, when does it become like we have to have better coaching? The coaching has to have your team ready to play, and teams like Virginia Tech, who is a well coached team, you still need to be able to go out there and dominate. Our defense was looking like they didn't show up to play. I think Tootin, their running back, who we all know is a really good running back, so you should be having a game plan to try to stop him. I think he averaged like 8 yards a carry.
Yeah,
He
he had
averaged
a
8 yards
hundred.
a
He had a
carry.
hundred yards in the first half.
Yeah, he and their other running back, if it wasn't for a phantom holding call, he would have had like an 80-yard touchdown. They got called back. We couldn't stop the run. Um, we couldn't stop the pass. Our secondary, I don't know what happened to them this game. Couldn't stop the pass. We only made them punt twice the whole game. They punted twice the whole entire game. 4 quarters. Virginia Tech punted twice. So I'm like, this defensive line, our linebackers, they was missing. I'm just like, this team was just not ready to play. And on offense, we talk about, offensive line. I would like to say the offensive line has progressed as far as pass blocking, but no running lanes. Not getting push up front, not creating holes for the running backs. So I'm just like, bruh, what else we gonna have to do? What else we gonna have to do? Because we're gonna play some other teams, and we don't have to play Clemson. We do play Louisville. That's gonna be a tough game. Um,
Oh, it's gonna be hella tough.
it's gonna be a tough game. I'm not gonna front. Syracuse may be a tough game.
Yep. No, no.
Georgia Tech might be a tough game.
They're all gonna be tough games because I, our fan, the fan base is delusional because they don't think coaching matters. When you look at the comments, they make all these excuses for Mario, not realizing we're going to get out coached every game. They're going to scheme us up. When you look at Kirby Smart and those halftime adjustments, and you look at what their offensive coordinator did to open things up, and they took Carson Beck, calmed him down after throwing damn near 2 picks, okay? And the defense responded, the offense responded, everybody, no more missed tackles. You don't have that type of head coach. When they asked Kirby what he had to do at halftime, he gave you an analysis. He was like, "Hey, we need to be able to pressure Jalen Milrow. We need to be able to make sure that we're playing better defense. We need to actually make sure that their receivers, you know what I'm saying? Like he gave specifics. When they asked Mario those same things, what did he say? Man, we just can't stop. We just got to stay in there. We got to continue to fight. What the fuck does that mean? What the fuck does that mean? And it's like the fan base is delusional. They make every excuse in the comments, and I'm like, you know what? What it reminds me of is like, and this is off topic, but it's the same thing. You notice when you have debates with people and it's something like politics, and they're like, well, this, and this, and that, right? And it's not competition based. So it's like they are allowed to kind of like foster those delusions. But when it comes to sports, it's harder. You can't do it. You're saying what your team should be, but at the end of the day, they lost. If let's just say like we could just pick winners and losers, UN fans would be like, we deserve to win, even though we know that these are better coaches. These delusional ass fans will be like, well, we have more talent, so we should win. Then when we go out there and it doesn't happen, they still don't have an excuse, and they still like. I also realize why like certain it's like you need fans because they're going to attend the games, they're going to do things, but people don't know what they're talking about. And you see why they've never played it down in football. They've never really sat out there and understood athletics. And you get that because you're like, yo, majority of these people keep saying we should be. How do you watch Alabama Georgia and not think that you don't have a coach? And my critiques of Mario can't do anything different because our coach, like you ask, like, oh, okay, well, why didn't we have a game plan? Because we know in those coaches meeting with the assistant coaches, he's not, they're doing most of the talking. He's going to have bland statements. Like, to me, he really shows himself to be an O-line coach, and you're not a position coach. You don't have any, like, you're getting out, like you just said, why didn't you come into this game and you do a hurry up tempo? Because Mario is like, no, I want to go old school football. He has this one philosophy and he doesn't know how to evolve it. He really doesn't even know how to, like, particularly take that strategy and simplify it or expand it based on the opponent. And I'm like, yo, y'all do realize that football, apart all the talent, the rest of this shit is analytical. The rest of this shit is chess. You do know that, right? No, they don't know that. So now, like, so for me, I'm always gonna have the same point up and down. You're gonna go as far as your coach is gonna go. Dabo, people talk that shit about Dabo, but like you said, if we beat Louisville and we meet Clemson right now, I would bet against Miami. And I love Miami, but I'm like, listen, you can't scheme. You can't scheme. And now you fired you didn't let go all your offensive coordinator, you didn't let go your defensive coordinator. So these are the last two coordinators that we have, in the sense of, okay, you can't blame it on anybody else. So it's just more about, like, look, you don't have the Kalen, you don't have the Nick Sabans. Like, you have, some of our talent is great, borderline elite, but you don't have elite coaching. So that, I think that's the fundamental question. And if fans that disagree with us, that think that Mario is an elite coach, you have all season to show us. But so far against Virginia Tech, we didn't see it, and that's all it was. Who's our very next game against?
Our next
Is
game,
against Cal. It's a night
Cal.
game. We
Cal,
play
yeah, yeah,
Cal.
we actually
Now
traveled with
Cal is not as good, right? And so the problem with that is this: it's not going to show the true test of, are they good, because we're going to have to, like you said, even, and the crazy part about it is, we're talking about Virginia Tech, we're talking about Syracuse, and I respect the opponents, they're going to be tough games, but these are the teams you're going to be seeing in the playoffs. Okay, you see your Georgias, you see your Ohio States. Don't make it like what I'm gonna tell you what the fans gonna do. The fair weather fans, we can make it through this schedule and then get blowed the fuck out and beat down, and they'll say, hey, like, they won't get into the point of what really why we lost.
So I
And
got
it's like,
so
look,
you know what, you brought up a good point, and I got a question about that. So because everybody says our schedule is favorable. Let's say we actually do run the table. We run the table. We meet Clemson, and we beat Clemson in the ACC championship game, and we get into the playoffs. What team right now do you feel like Miami could legitimately beat in a
see,
playoff?
here's the thing about that. Your first playoff test is beating Clemson. Clemson is one of those teams. They got beat by Georgia and they didn't have their open offense. We don't have a defense like Georgia, so let's start there.
Mm,
So if you're able to even beat Clemson, then you feel better. But I'm like, nah, your playoff starts there. If you run the table and you can make it, like Louisville, honestly, if you beat Louisville, which Louisville, didn't they play Notre Dame?
They played Notre Dame. They played Notre Dame. They ended up losing by a touchdown.
Okay, that already tells me something. So that's going to be a grudge match right there, because
Mhm.
they're going to want to make sure that they can go see Clemson. So if we make it and we get to Clemson, we're going to contend against a defense that's top notch, a defense that stacks at the line, a defense that's going to be coming for us. It's going to be the most ferocious defense that we came across. Our defense is not necessarily going to stop their offense, right? Because it's going to take everything. So I feel like, for me, at least if we were able to beat Clemson, you don't even have to beat them decisively. If you're able to at least beat Clemson, right?
Mhm.
Um, then I think that I feel a little bit better about this team. I think a better estimation is, right now Miami couldn't beat Clemson. So let's just say we run the table and
Mhm.
then we have a one loss in the ACC championship. They'll probably let us in the playoff. They'll let us in the playoff because it's 12 teams.
Mhm.
Um, if they let us in the playoff with that one loss, we're not going to get that first round bye.
I
So that
don't know, man. Like if that one loss better be super close. It better be super close because they're not going to be showing love to the ACC. They're going to try. The SEC got so many teams. They'll put a
they are.
two-loss SEC team in before they put a one-loss ACC non-champ in.
See, here's the thing: that Virginia Tech win loss, that don't help us. That's
They
that's a
don't.
bad look.
They
That's
don't.
that. I think that's already what's gonna hurt you. So like, to me as a fan, I'm already shutting up because you had a controversial call. So yeah, you're right. If we don't get blowed out, let's just say we lose by 12 points, right? We lose by a touchdown. Let me say that, like 10, a touchdown, and that. We got a lot of talking to do. We got dynamics. The thing that I like about the SEC is they're gonna beat each other up. So like you said, they're gonna have a two-loss team, but it's gonna have to be like to me, a two-loss team would have to be somebody like a Kentucky, right? To where, okay, they got a loss to Georgia and they got a questionable loss to South Carolina. So should they let in Miami, a one-loss Miami team or a two-loss Kentucky team, right? I feel like if we slide in there, we don't get the first round bye. So in the first round bye is for the conference championships. But if
Mhm.
we gotta play somebody like Georgia the first game, we gonna get lit up.
I,
We
I
gonna get
I
lit up
don't
real
see us
bad.
being able to compete with Tennessee, Georgia. Um,
Tennessee remains to be seen because, and this is my question. This
they
is
haven't
how
been
I feel.
tested either. They haven't
They
been.
haven't been tested, and they're going to get lit up by Georgia. I think Georgia's going to make a statement. I think Georgia's going to take out their these next games. Georgia's going to take out their frustration on Tennessee. That's what's going to happen with Tennessee. That's my prediction. And this is for somebody who went in on Alabama, but I'm like, yeah, Georgia's going to take that shit out on Tennessee because this is Kirby Smart, and I like Josh all day, but you're not beating Kirby because Josh is not there yet. And that's why I didn't say players. It's not good. Like when we get to these type of games, it's gonna come down to coaching. And it's like you can like Tennessee all day, but do you like Josh Heupel enough? Do you like Josh Heupel over Kirby Smart? Nope. He,
Nah,
he he barely lost to Kalen DeBoer. So for me, our best match would be able to beat somebody like Penn State. 'Cause let me tell you what Penn State gonna do. Penn State ain't hit the meat of their schedule, and I think Penn State knows this. They're like, they're not gonna be. Which let's just say they have one loss. If we meet a team like them, that would be a semi-evenly matchup because
yeah.
they're built for trench warfare. But we know that offense is questionable, and they can probably beat themselves up. So I think like that would be a favorable matchup, or somebody like they're like whoever the Big 12 champ is, they'll
Like,
probably let automatically in the Big.
yeah,
So at Kansas State,
Kansas State. Yeah, I don't
Kansas
know.
State.
Kansas State would be, but that offense
Well,
is.
here's the thing about Kansas State. We would lose because they're better coached, and I think when you get to that level, coaching matters. I think that's just the main thing. When we get to these playoffs, you know, you don't want someone who is a better coach because then the talent don't have to. We see now Miami can be beat. It ain't about talent. We can be beat. How are you going to get beat by a better coach, well organized? If Virginia Tech was a little bit more less mistakes, Virginia Tech wins that game. But
Hey,
Virginia Tech wins that game by a touchdown or two.
hey, mark my words, man. I'm saying it now. We better watch the fuck out for Duke. We better watch the fuck out for Duke.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't, you know.
Out for Duke, man. Like I like he's saying when it comes to coaching, it's not the talent because everybody's gonna say we have more talent. We should be able to beat Duke. Blah 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 blah. Just like all the other teams, and we should be able to. And we got Cam. That's another thing.
Whole
This is
whole, whole technical difficulties right quick. Hold on, you just hold on. Say that again because you just froze up, so ain't nobody get that.
nah. I think
Hey, hold on. I'm just letting you know you froze up for like a whole 5 seconds, so you might have to repeat that.
okay. So for everybody who's talking about us having more talent and coaching being a concern when we playing teams like Duke, right? Duke, we have way more talent. We have way more
Way more time.
talent. And I would say I wouldn't call Manny an elite coach, but I do think when you have opportunity to really draw up something, really plan something to beat a team, if you can play, Miami plays a lot of damn, hold on, I done lost it. Where we go? And the
No,
technical.
we see you.
Oh,
No,
you
I hear
see?
you just fine. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
you fine. You look good and everything.
All right. So Miami has everything that you need for your team to be like one of those elite teams. But when you don't have the coaching, this is when like other teams that aren't elite, but they play sound, fundamental, mistake free football. This is when you can get beat. And then I think this is what happens to Miami. Like they can be beat because they're not playing fundamental football. And we see the games where they are playing fundamental football, they look good. Like the other games where like the defensive line is playing well, the secondary is playing well. It's just like, okay, if we can get this team every single week, then I feel confident in saying like they could really compete, against the top elite teams. But when I see a Georgia and I see a Alabama, and then I put Miami next to that, talent wise, I feel like across the board we're about even. They may have a little bit more elite talent in certain positions, but across the board, like depth and everything, like it's even. But I feel like there's a huge gap somewhere. And I'm like, why is there such a wide gap when the talent is about the same? And I'm just like, it has to come down to one thing, and it's coaching, making sure that the players are disciplined, being able to make adjustments, having a game plan that even if, like with Georgia, the first half was disastrous. That game was going to be a blowout. And then next thing you know, they got the lead. Now, would Miami be able to do that if they get into a
No,
fight
no,
with somebody?
Miami.
But think about it. Miami could get into a dogfight with a Georgia Tech, and that would be difficult. Imagine them getting into a dogfight with a team like Alabama. Would they be able to do that?
No.
So,
And I think you hit it. Miami doesn't really make halftime adjustments. Miami really doesn't game plan. Like you said, if we just play mistake-free football and you get those previous teams, I think that gets you in the game. I think you're competing. I don't think you don't get blowed out. But when you see that you're being exposed, remember when we were going back and forth with Louisville, we kind of just, all right, we were up at halftime. They didn't do anything different when they came back out. And so far, when you're winning, which we play Florida, you didn't need to adjust, right?
would you be confident? Would you be confident if we went down 28 or 30-7 against the Louisville that we like? You would
No,
feel confident, not even win the game, but confident that we still had a chance.
I'm only because of the talent, not because of the coaching, and that's sad. If we didn't have Cam, I think we would have a lot of tempered expectations, right? We would be like, okay, Emory Williams is good, and we'll put it on him. We'll put it on the players. Most people, most fans, now the smart fans, people who have been analyzing the stuff, and a lot of people on the podcast, they know what the real is going to be. And football, trust me, bro, it's exciting, it's emotional. Even last week, bro, I was ready to say it all. I wanted to forget about coaching until I sat down this week and I watched a class, Alabama, Georgia, right? And like you said, like let Miami, we need to temper things. We just went through it with Virginia Tech. So when I sat down and I looked at it, I was like, listen, we got our coach. Same thing that first half with USF. We got our coach. The only thing we did with USF is we kept fighting because that's what our coach believed in. So we didn't switch anything. All we did was we got a great offense. We went back to that. And I'm like, that's cool. But what happens when it's Georgia? No, when you need to switch things. So now, Georgia had to say, the identity of our team is to stop you first and figure out how to score later. All right, we can't stop them, and we got to score later. Okay, no, 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 no. We gotta go into halftime, figure out how to stop them immediately. Okay, and we need to go to a quick strike offense. Georgia did it so much so that if the talent level was a little bit better at the quarterback position, they would have won. But it doesn't matter. They took what they had, switched everything, and we're talking about massive adjustments. Georgia, for the last 2 years, has not been an explosive team. Even when they beat down Clemson, it was slow and methodical. Okay, now they realize that if they want to win a national championship, they got to get explosive early, and their defense has to get down, close up early. How you tell me at the end of the day? I'm happy Alabama won. You know what I'm saying? I'm somebody that was Alabama in the first quarter, Alabama at the half, Alabama at the game. And everybody who knows me knew that. And I said that way in advance because I'm not just talking about this. I'm putting my money up. So it's different, and I think that's the difference between casual fans. If casual fans had to put their money up, because I lost money on Virginia Tech. Okay, I lost money. So I'm not just up here talking about this. It was a point spread that was beatable, but it was because I was like, I'm thinking with my heart. I'm not thinking with my brain. I'm not being realistic. So no, Georgia was impressive because of the adjustments, and the fact that they could switch their identity and they had it in the playbook. Those coaches, that whole coaching staff, elite, elite. No, Miami is getting buried because Miami doesn't know how to change. The only reason we're safe is that we got an explosive offense. But if they shut down our offense, they shut down the explosive offense. Can we become a running team? Because when we're running on first down, we're not getting no holes. Okay. And we don't know how to listen. At the end of the day, I know we disagree, but I think Jordan Lyles could be better than Brashard Smith. I think you got to line them up different ways. I think you have them coming out the backfield. I think you're running real routes. Did you see Georgia run that real route? Yes. Listen, the wheel route is your friend. Now here's the thing. I love the fact that we use our tight ends. And I think our tight ends, I think in a situation where we had to make adjustments, I think we rely on our tight ends a lot more. I think we go into two tight end sets and you have tight ends blocking to give Cam more time because Alabama was on their ass, and then you're throwing more to the tight ends, and you're not necessarily abandoning it, but you're still want to utilize your receivers, but your receivers are going to be blocking, they're going to be decoys. And I mean, the fact that if we had to have a drive where we use nothing but tight ends and running backs in space, running backs out of the backfield, like could we do that? I don't think we could because I think that Mario is still the leader of this team. And I think the assistant coaches are not like, you got to understand. When Lane Kiffin went to Alabama, you can tell Lane Kiffin had free reign. You can tell when Alabama had Steve Sarkisian, it was free reign. And you take a look at them as head coaches. Why are they as successful? And people be like, Lane just lost. Listen, if that is your point, you's a goddamn fool. He took Ole Miss, who still doesn't have
Right.
Miami talent, who
Right.
still doesn't have Miami
Right.
talent. And I'm not saying that they're an elite team. What I am saying is that they have an elite head coach who has made everybody better. That loss is greatly humbling. I'm the type of person now where I'm like, look, man, and we don't know this, but I'm like, that's gonna sometimes a loss like that makes a head coach make you ain't got no choice but to make adjustment because you got them lost.
Mhm.
So only a fool is doesn't have a reason for anything. And I feel like while I love Mario as a recruiter, and I always give him his flowers on that, I think he's a fool for a head coach. I think that he still don't have his GED in coaching. I still think he says generic statements. I think that our assistant coaches would be better on other teams, and I think you're only as good as your leader. I don't give a damn how raw you are. As your head coach goes, the
Yeah.
team goes, and that's why Georgia got out of an impossible hole in front of our eyes. They blocked down their own fan. Their own fan base had gave up. Everybody gave up. I was talking shit. A real coach knows how to block that out, knows how to break you down and makes you focus. And then after they break you down, they give you the strategy and they build you up, and then they give you the confidence to execute. And that Georgia, man, listen, I still love Alabama because I love Kalen DeBoer. But when I take a look at who Miami really needs to be, always remember your head coach is an O line coach. He is not a defensive coordinator.
But
He is
even
not an
that,
offensive coordinator.
being being supposed to be an elite O line coach, our rushing game is just deplorable.
Nah, he's not an. He's an elite recruiter. I feel comfortable saying that.
And I agree with that. I think he's an elite recruiter. But the consensus has been even all through college football that he's an O line guy. He's an in the trenches guy and all that. But when you look at our offensive line, like skill wise, size wise, we should be able to pummel anybody. We should own the trenches. We should. And if you look at our running backs,
Yeah.
you look at our stable of running backs, because people be talking, and we had this talk about certain running backs that we have, right? And certain running. I said, you know what? I don't think it matters who's the running back. If our offensive line, one is off, if our offensive line is creating holes and not getting pushed, and if we're running the same exact play, we're running out of shotgun, one running back up the gut. We're not doing traps. We're not doing counters. We're not doing two backs. We're not doing motion.
Every now and then they'll do a screen, but usually not on
I
first
mean, not
down.
even that's the passing game. I'm talking about the strict running game. I'm talking about where they're not doing wildcat. They're not doing speed option. They're not doing jet sweeps. They're not doing stretch plays. It's literally the same run, the same look. It doesn't matter. And I started going through all the running backs because every time we talk about a running back, we like, oh, we got a great running back. Mark Fletcher last year, oh, we got a great running back. Where he at this year? Oh, Damian Martinez in the transfer portal, we got a great running back. Oh, when we had Jalen Knighton, oh, Rooster, we got a running back that could blow the top off. Oh, we had Don Chaney, who's gone. We had not Robert, Henry Parrish. He's an SEC running back. Oh, we got him. We got Brashard Smith, who can do it all. Now we got, we got AJ Allen. We got Chris Johnson. We got Jordan Lyle. We gonna keep going through running backs. We're gonna keep getting more running backs and more running backs to where we don't have enough to give everybody the ball. They're gonna transfer. They're gonna go somewhere else. We're gonna get more running backs next year. But if we run the same play, the same style, out of the same formation all the time, it doesn't matter if we got a bruiser back there, somebody who's just gonna fall forward for 5 or 6 yards, or somebody who's dynamic and who can take it to the house every time they touch the ball. It don't matter. It don't matter. I watched the SMU game, and Rhett Lashley. I gave him a lot of shit about not being able to run the ball with Miami. And I see Brashard Smith and Jalen Knighton over there. And I watched that game against FSU. And I was like, yo, he was getting he was getting Brashard Smith the ball out of the backfield in so many different formations. And I was just like, this is how. And I think he had something like, 20 carries or something close to that. I'm just like, you get him the
129 yards, and he played receiver.
and
And
he
I
was
was like, yeah,
playing. So I'm just like, for a coach who's known for throwing the ball a whole lot against Florida State, like they established the run and they just didn't do it out of one formation. I've seen a whole lot of formations. I've seen a lot of ways to get him the ball, and he's a dynamic player. So once you get him into a little bit of space, you let him do what he do. But even if Damian Martinez, if he's getting the ball, he's a bruiser, right? So if you don't get him the ball in certain angles or certain spaces where he can get through the hole and start to make something happen, like you need him going downhill. You just giving him the ball, take one step and telling him to run isn't best for him. That's not optimal for him. Maybe for Jordan Lau or for Chris Johnson, those are your speed guys. So I'm just like, if you're not doing nothing to Taylor, even Mark Fletcher, if you're not getting him the ball in position, I see him like damn like a Derrick Henry. Like he's big, he's tall, he's fast, and he got a little bit of shiftiness with him. It ain't super shifty, but he got enough to like he if it's just him and a safety in a hole, I like him. But if you don't get it to where they're lined up to where it's one on one, now you got two safeties or you got linebackers running through the hole, blowing up everything. Our offensive line not getting no push. They're not doing no pulling. Like there's going to be a game where our running game is going to have to help Cam. He's not going to be able to do the hero shit the whole time. It's not going to work. It's going to be a coach that's getting tape and they're watching tape right now. So when they say, you know what, when we play him, we're gonna take away everything passing wise. Y'all gonna have to beat us running. And if y'all can't do that running, then it's gonna be a long game. We're gonna give our team a chance. Now, ultimately, that's when you think, okay, talent might win out. But there's gonna be a game. Virginia Tech was almost that game, but Cam, he made some mistakes. That was a game he could have been got. There's gonna be some more games like that where he may not play perfect. He's gonna have his moments, but they're gonna be a game where like this coach has really drawn up some shit to take away Cam. What else are we gonna do?
we're
And if
not gonna do nothing so far because
we can't say, and I keep seeing all these fans, oh, Damian Martinez, he tiptoes, he's running. So how you gonna tiptoe when there's no hole there? He gonna tiptoe through what? A brick wall?
I think you kind of hit it on the head. Um, and he has Alex Maribel there, and
Yeah.
I think all of Mario's accolades, and Oregon tried to tell us this, is really just based on the fact that he gets great talent. But yeah, our O line, they don't create no holes because they can't really develop talent, and I can just tell. His biggest thing is get the talent, but Mario is just not really. He's not really. And Alex Maribel either. I think, and they send people to the draft, right? But
Mhm.
and I think they get better as play. I think some of the people on the O line, because they don't have Jalen Rivers. They're like Jalen Rivers come back, but I'm like, okay, when he comes back, how much difference is he magically gonna be able to mesh and get a hole? But like you said, you're not getting enough holes for us to say he's an O line guy. Like when you think of Rhett Lashley, you think of dynamic offense. He was dynamic offensive as assistant. And so I just think it just comes down to once again where, man, look, our guy, he don't know strategy. He's not interested though in learning strategy. He's interested in getting coaches who follow his philosophy, but the coaches probably can't tell him anything different because I'm like, all right, we've been known to get the tight ends involved more, right? Last year they did not get the tight end involved. Everyone was like, why? Okay, so now the tight ends are more involved. I think that that's more of a response to the fan base and to people. Period. I think that when it comes to like running straight up the middle, which they're still running straight up the middle, you know what I'm saying? And they did that when Manny was there as well, right? But when you saw Rhett Lashley do different things, I think Rhett Lashley is evolving. I think he's understanding why, because they had a lot of close victories and they had a loss. So he was like, look, if I want to win, I need to figure out to get my running game going, but it's not working here because I don't have the biggest line. Well, let me do this, let me do this, let me do this, right? And so that's why, great coaches, great offensive or defensive minds, and Kirby. Kirby, we watched them shut down Alabama, right? You saw his players be in better positions and they understood a couple of the motions that Alabama was doing. That's just something that we're not gonna have. I think that, we can see it. I think football people can see it, but it's like when your coach can't see that and they're watching game tape. So they're watching the same tape that we're watching, right? And they're still like, you watch Mario. Mario's gonna say, we just got to keep fighting. It's gonna be a whole bunch of generic. I'm realizing that that's what he's saying. He's not doing all this analyzation that we are. The assistant coaches are, but I mean that's their boss. Their boss his biggest thing was he doesn't want to be an air raid team. What if you had to start, capitalizing on just short passes, right? And not necessarily running as much. And I've seen Cam have and the other thing is too is that, Cam has a lot of he has a long leash to switch to play. That's actually a good thing, right? Because if
Yeah,
he didn't have that,
yeah,
we'll be messed up some more. But he can't switch. Like he can only switch a run play. He can't. He can maybe, like, what I'm saying. Like he has a group of plays that he's gonna go to. But I think as far he's not in the meetings as far as saying like, hey, and no, I don't think any player is gonna do that. Like, let's start running up the middle if they secretly want that. You know what I'm saying? Because it is what it is. So I just think that a lot of the things that you're saying are just beyond the realms of realistic possibility. I think that, you know what, we need to have the best season as possible, but we ain't making no halftime adjustments because we ain't never made them. Okay, we not finna be doing all of this space, look, all that deep stuff you're talking about that makes sense. That is what would help us win and be elite. Mario has never been that guy. And I asked myself, do you teach an old dog new tricks? No, they just fire these dogs and they go get a dog that can. And I just think that's just what it is. I think that as fans, they're delusional. And I think us, I'm just happy and we just hope. And that's why I think that's why a lot of the fans start going to the players, because it's like, if we had to tell the truth, you get depressed because Mario ain't going to change. So they just going to put it all on Cam. But Cam is what, 22 years old? Can you really like Carson Beck had bad games? You're gonna have bad games. You're gonna have games where the defense is gonna mess up, and the only thing you can hope is that the defense gets better. But adjustments, no, we're not making adjustments because we ain't never made adjustments. He ain't making no adjustments. And if there is, it's gonna be about the coaches. But I mean, at this point, I just think we just gotta, and I think that's why a lot of times I just be like, look, man, I'm gonna just hopefully we can fix what we need to fix. But as far as the next level, no. Which we saw Alabama and Georgia, we no. If we got in that game, what adjustments they gonna make? They gonna run up the middle,
yeah.
okay?
All right,
They
coaching. All right, real quick. I want to do something. You tell me if Miami, because Miami, like I said, they dropped from number 7 to number 8. These teams behind them, tell me, do you think Miami is a better team than these teams? So behind
okay.
Miami is Missouri,
Um,
and Missouri is
Missouri,
undefeated right now.
yeah, they have Eli thing. So I'm gonna say we're not better than them, because I mean you got to look at the fact that low key we're supposed to be better, right? Because if you ask me right now, if you ask the fans right now, are we better than Virginia Tech? They'll say, yeah, we're better. Are you really? You took a Hail Mary pass. You're not better than Virginia Tech. You're not. You played them and you barely won on a controversial call. So that, and I think that's my point. So my point is, no, we're not better than Missouri, because Missouri has a better coach. Missouri has elite level coach. They have a great player. Yeah, they're struggling right now, but I think that they're a better coach team, and I just think that that's our Achilles
They are
heel.
undefeated. All right, what about Michigan? Michigan has a one loss to Texas.
Um, that would be a good game, right? They have an elite, what looks like still an elite defense. We have a high power offense, and they have a new coach. They have a new coach. Um, I think we're barely better, but I think we could lose that game. I'm gonna do it like that. I think that we're a little better, but I think that we can get out coached because Sharon Moore comes from Harbaugh, and Harbaugh was an elite level coach, and he mirrors his game after them. They're just missing a quarterback, and I think they play Miami smart. I think they get the tape on us, and I think they play mistake-free football, and they're just trying to stop us. I think we can squeak out a victory, but it'll be ugly. But a much better defense than Virginia Tech, much better. Yeah, just yeah. I almost, yeah. I just think he comes from an elite coach. So yeah, that's my
What
answer.
about USC? Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln Riley, a much
They
better
just they
coach than
just
us.
lost to Michigan, so they only have
They
one loss,
just
3-1.
they only got one loss. Much better coach and elite offensive mind. I definitely feel like they find ways to score on us. Defensively, they're better. They're much better. Last year, I think we would have easily beat them. Now it's like, man, Miami's in a dogfight. Miami's in a dogfight with anybody who's better coach. If you're in a dogfight with Virginia Tech that's not ranked, and you think you're not going to be in a dogfight with these ranked teams, I'm like, look, man, it's stacked. I think those two teams are even.
All right. What about Ole Miss? You know, they just
Ole
got
Miss, Ole Miss beats us. Ole Miss beats us because they adjust for us. They stack up well against us. Yeah, we're not necessarily stopping them. They are going to stop us at times. We're still going to score, but I think that if it comes down to a shootout, which it is, I think they get open in space. I think Lane Kiffin opens up the playbook, and I think we lose, but I don't think we get blowed out.
what about Oregon? Oregon's undefeated right now.
Yeah, and I saw the way they played, but I still think they beat the shit out of us. I think that we lose probably by 2 touchdowns. I think they get up for us. I think they scheme for us. I think that we don't stop them. Yeah, and I think they play mistake-free football. So yeah, I think they beat us by 2 touchdowns.
This the only team. What about Penn State? This the only team I might feel real comfortable with.
I feel real comfortable, but the thing about them is they're gonna play mistake-free football. They just not gonna be able to get their offense going. But this is Miami's secondary, right? So right now, if you notice in that game, if Tyler Barron from Tennessee doesn't really get off, then nobody else get off. So if you're gonna give a quarterback all time, and then what happens if our linebacker, you know what I'm saying? It's like I still think, listen, here's what's really gonna figure it out. You need to know who Virginia Tech plays next. If Virginia Tech continues to play well, then that's one thing. If Virginia Tech gets blowed out or doesn't look competitive, bro, you're gonna lose all those teams because all those teams are gonna have more talent. And
So,
like James Franklin,
I brought that up because basically, if the playoff were to start, those would be the teams, you know, the 12 top 12, 13 teams that's hovering around that those playoff spots. So, of course, you would have the top five that would get the automatic bid to buy, but then it's like, who would be these other teams that we would face that would look favorable and are like, okay, going up against this team, I feel comfortable. Like I feel comfortable we compete. And
nah, I don't feel comfortable against none of them because all those coaches are better. All those coaches are better. James Franklin, if you think about it, last year they had their 2 losses. Their biggest thing is you can't be Ohio State. When Ohio State will have elite level talent and they'll have elite level coaching. And it's like, people will flaw, but it's like all these particular coaches are better than Mario. All of them are better than Mario. And I think that's the problem that bothers me. It's like we're depending on assistant coaches to be able to do things, and what happens when they make an adjustment and we can't? So I don't feel I don't after watching that game. I listen. I could take a bad game. Georgia was starting off with a bad game, but it's the adjustments, and I'm like, look, man, we don't play nobody until we play Louisville, and right now it's really like okay, when Louisville
is
did.
Mario? Do you feel Mario coaching wise is better than Jeff Brom?
No, Mario's not better than anybody coaching wise. The man didn't even know to do a victory formation. Bruh, outside. Here's what Miami fans need to understand. When you win, other teams can't say anything, and they respect the history of Miami, right? Miami is known for elite level of coaching. So if y'all want to sit up here and act like
That's true.
Mario,
Let,
y'all like
let's.
Miami is known for
I
Jimmy
think that's one
Johnson,
thing. I think that's a great point you brought up. Like uh, we've always had elite talent, right? We've had great players, but let's not like put no. Let's put some respect on that coaching tree. Like we have had some legendary, not just good coaches,
legend.
legendary.
Yes,
And
legendary
some
coaches.
schools like have one or two, but from Schnellenberger to Jimmy Johnson to Dennis Erickson to Butch. If Butch would have stayed at Miami, Miami probably would have won. They had won 34 games in a row. They should have played Florida State for the national championship. Not played. They should have played instead of Florida State against Oklahoma for the national championship because they beat Florida State that year, and they would have beat the shit out of Oklahoma. Um, and then they played Nebraska. They beat the shit out of them, and they would have beat the shit. That would have been national championship after national championship. I guess the money in the NFL, with Cleveland and just being in the NFL was just like, something Butch wanted. And maybe the way Butch ran things, the administration back then wasn't with it. But we know if Butch would have stayed at Miami, what Miami would have been. All right. So our coaching tree, we have some legendary coaches. And like I guess because Mario has been on those teams, we are, I don't know if we're expecting that, but it's just like we keep doing this whole like we should expect like greatness in coaching, not just because we do have greatness and talent. We've had greatness and talent. We see when it goes to the next level what it does. And it's just like, why don't we have that same respect or that same expectation when it comes to coaching? Because we don't look at Jimmy Johnson and be like, well, maybe he no. We know that Jimmy Johnson was a motherfucker, and he wasn't like we was gonna be out there winning. Dennis Erickson, the same thing. Like, dog, we're gonna be winning, and it's just like, dog, I'm tired of just like the fan base overall just accepting mediocrity at the coaching position because we're going to kill the quarterback. We're going to kill all the players. If they're not performing TVDs, we're going to go in on the players. But I'm just like, why don't we have that same expectation
Because a lot of those fans,
from the coaching?
they're a lot of those fans they're not analytical. They really don't know nothing. Most fans, in fans, I think most fan bases for a lot of colleges are delusional. Some of them know, like for instance, you call Texas fans delusional, but when they got Sarkeesian and they didn't know, everyone else would look at it like, yeah, that dude was because you're basing it based on how you were as an assistant. He was an elite level assistant. Alabama literally had no drop off. Lane Kiffin left when Sarkeesian came in. It was like you feel me? Nothing changed. And I'm like, that's great. They went to a high power offense. So it's like, so it made sense that Lane Kiffin is at Ole Miss. It made sense that Lane Kiffin had Florida Atlantic balling, right? It shouldn't be a surprise. When Mario got to different places, it was a surprise. The fan base, they just they get delusional and they don't want to listen to the purists because you mentioned Jimmy Johnson. That's a legendary coach. That's not even an elite coach. That's a legendary coach. He literally won championships and won a Super Bowl. And Dallas ain't been the same since, and Miami ain't been the same since. Dennis Erickson, I would say, is an elite level coach. If
Mm,
not legendary, but elite. He had Washington winning. He had us winning. We haven't had that since Butch. You got to call it Butch, and you first of all you got to call Butch an elite level coach, and then you got to call him a legendary recruiter.
mm,
Put together the greatest team that's ever seen, and then had these boys out here on a killer mentality and set up a culture. So
mm,
at that point, you know what? Yeah, you know what? You gotta call him. You gotta call him a legend, especially for legendary coach, a legendary recruiter, because he is the reason that like it's like those old championships were dope and it made us raw. But from that 2000 era, he established a culture that we're still chasing. And it's like, yeah, Mario was on those teams, but from Mario's coaching tree, when he was at FIU, he was garbage. And that's really what you need to be honing in on. He never got better. He got on better coaching staffs and he learned not to fuck up things and he was at better schools. But how did you do when you were coming up the coaching ranks, right? How did you do when you were here? Like the one thing that I can respect about Manny is that Manny was an elite level recruiter. I mean, Manny was an elite level coach. Why do I say that? Because he was elite. When he was at Texas and Mississippi, he was elite. Then he had some bad seasons, right? Then when he went to Penn State is where they're at again, is because he made that defense elite again. Then he went to Duke. And I don't know what type of season that Duke is gonna have, but at the end of the day, he's 5-0. And you look what first of all, I watched some of that game. Duke was blitzing. We know Manny liked the blitz. So when we play Duke, know that they're gonna blitz. Have a blitz beater. I know that. What we should do? We should be running more screens because screen passes are blitz beaters. They're gonna send everybody. You know what I'm saying? Your quarterback delays, runs back, throws it. And so you gotta know that that's what Manny likes to do. But Manny, what did he do for his offense? He went back and got Rhett Lashley's assistant because he knew that that works well and it complements the type of defense that he wants to run. That
mm,
strategy. And this was Manny's first head coaching job. Mario's first head coaching job was bad as well. Manny was just new. And honestly, when they picked Manny, it wasn't a good fit for because you had a freshman coach. Yes, now he was an elite recruiter, so he was an elite assistant, so we can't say anything. And let's not say he was elite. He was a very, very good defensive coordinator at the time. But that was his first job. But instead of trying to go out and getting an elite level coach, right? An elite level coach first, right? Dan Mullen is not an elite recruiter, but he was an elite assistant. And Florida had the most success under him. Now they didn't like him, and the first time that he did bad, they fired him. But one thing that you will never say is that Dan Mullen was not an elite offensive mind. That he is. And honestly, you take a look at Florida. It's the same thing. You don't like his personality, so you'll get somebody that you like. And you can't even get mad at Billy Napier because at least you can say when he was at his last school, it was elite. I'm gonna tell you now, Graham Mertz is the reason that Billy Napier is doing bad. You gave the man a better quarterback. You're not winning with an okay quarterback, okay? And we know that Mario didn't believe so because he moved heaven and earth to get him. But Mario, and it's like I love the person that Mario is. I know that he's a great dude. I know that he's nice. But Mario doesn't want to evolve. He never has. First of all, he never was a positional coach. Well, let me not say that. He was an O-line coach. And I go back to that. It's like, look, man, you need somebody who is an elite offensive coordinator or elite defensive coordinator, and then you want somebody who has like been great and they're going to evolve. Kirby was great at Georgia for years. So all those years they got different offensive coordinators, Kirby was there. When he finally left, he took Georgia and he was able to build it up and they had a philosophy. Mario don't have a philosophy. He don't want to learn the coach. Listen, Al Golden was like him. One thing I can say about Al Golden is this. Once Al Golden knew he was garbage, Al Golden was like, let me continue to learn. What like it's like I don't like Al Golden for because he's never was a good fit at UM, but it's like when it comes to Notre Dame, he's a good fit.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah,
good fit.
he is. And I think you got to
He's,
know your personnel. Like you said, know your personality and know the personnel. Like Mario wants to be like such a pound the ball. He wants to be in the trenches, but like your personnel isn't that. And if that's not your personality, you got to get somebody who knows how to utilize that personnel. Because you make me think of Jim Harbaugh, right? And Jim Harbaugh
mhm.
won a national championship doing it his way. He ran the ball,
Yes.
played great defense. All right, we're going to play ball control. We're going to control time of possession. We're not going to turn the ball over. We're going to throw when we have to. We're going to make timely plays, and we're just going to keep running the ball. And he won a national championship. That was his identity, right? And his talent, the players that he got, matched his identity, matched the.
But even more than that, he knew what he was doing. Mario may say that that's what he wants to do, but you've never really done that. When you were at FIU, you couldn't do that. So my biggest thing is that it's great to have a philosophy, but that's like having a theory. Have you ever really done that? Have you ever sat down and really done that? Jim Harbaugh did that in college before, and he did that in the NFL. Then
Yeah,
he went back to college and did it. Now he's going back to the NFL. Mario, and I think that's what we got to see. Like Jim Harbaugh was a great coach.
yeah,
Mario,
great coach.
low key, dog, he has never been a great coach. He has been an elite recruiter, whatever staff he's been on, but he is not a great coach. He has not developed talent. When you and everybody else in college football, low key knows that. Fans got to stop being delusional. And I understand being loyal to your team. I understand riding with what we got, but don't ever lie to yourself. Because when you get beat down and you ask yourself what happened, the truth will always come back and stare you in the face. This guy, at the end of the day, still don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, and hopefully that just doesn't, like I said, I do want to see us get to the ACC championship game undefeated and really go up. I want a healthy Clemson team, and I want us to go up toe to toe with a team that we would consider a powerhouse. You know what I'm saying? Just to see where we stand. Beating Cal and Duke and all these other teams, that don't mean shit to me. Like, and even if we look really good, none of that shit mean nothing to me. I want to see us because that should be our expectation. Like nobody expects Alabama and Georgia to get to number one and number two and be elite, beating a whole bunch of bad teams. They want to see them run through the gauntlet of the SEC, and that's how you know like they're legit, they're for real because they're beating really, really, really good teams week in and week out. Not a bunch of weak teams that you're beating week in and week out. If you could beat those teams week in and week out, it's like okay, I believe in you until we get to that point. And it's just the ACC has some, it's up and down, and it's not as strong as the SEC. But once we get to the ACC championship game, that's where I really want to see what we're going to do, what we really are made of. Um, because until then, like all these other teams that we play, it's just be like, okay, I just want to see improvement. I want to see like continually to get better each week. I don't want to see one week we see the defensive line and the defense playing great, and then the next week we see missed tackles and old habits. All right, we're praising the secondary one week, and the next week they getting torched. Like we need
I'm
to
gonna
see.
tell you right now, though, our line. I think Tyler Barron is hurt. I don't think Ruben Bain is coming back next game.
We
And I
even we got Akeem Messidor, we got Armando Blanc, we got Powell.
Armando Blunt don't play.
Oh,
I
Blunt
don't think
don't
he's
play.
played like that.
Um, Powell from Michigan State. We got like our offense. I mean, our defensive line is loaded. We got plenty
They're
rotate.
loaded, but low key, the dude from Tennessee makes everybody look better. And I noticed when he was hurt, you remember when he got hurt at the beginning of that game, and they never really got pushed after that because Mesidor is solid. But when you have one player that's great, remember when we had Russo, it makes all the other players good. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's hype. I think that Tyler Barron is raw. I think the rest of them are good, but I think that they're. I think without that leader, I can tell that unit's not going to get the push. And what happens is, if you don't get the push there, then the DBs start to look exposed, and then we're depending on that safety. And I'm like, look, man, that defensive line made everybody else look good because and those teams weren't that good. Now that we're playing better people, if that boy is hurt and Ruben Bain don't come back, our defense is going to take a step back, and then there's not going to be adjustment that can be made. And I think ultimately, you don't make adjustments, you can't win. We don't adjust. So next week, even with Cal gonna play us tough now. Every team gonna play
Power
us
play
tough,
team. Yeah.
but we got too much talent for them, and Florida State beat them, right? So ain't no way. I don't even want to talk about that. But
Oh,
that
Cal
next
actually
game,
won that game, but they end up like fumbling that at the end. It
yeah, they actually
wasn't
could have
like Florida
won. They
State
could
beat
have
them
won.
soundly. They beat them by 2 points, and yeah, Cal should have won that game.
Yeah, Cal should have won. And honestly, Mike Norvell is showing himself to not be a developer of talent. He to just be just painting what it is. Because even with less talent, right? You should have known because now you benched that quarterback. I don't care what you paid him. Your job is on the line. You are, if anything, if it's me, I'm running a two quarterback system. You're not coming in because that's really what it is with DJ. He have a series where he looked good because I watched him. The first series he looked good. Second and third he started teetering off. You've been run you a two quarterback system. You've been get the other quarterback in there. Okay, what you think SMU? Listen, there's a couple of teams that had two quarterbacks, and it's like, look, man, this got to go on like that because I can't trust you. And then you need somebody else to step up. And I'm like, FSU got talent. You're not developing that talent. You got if you can't develop talent and make adjustments, you're only gonna go as far as that talent what it is baseline. And I will the only thing that I know that Mario does different is that he used them goddamn timeouts. Remember last year he used the timeouts. So I can say you use the timeouts. Maybe sometimes when you shouldn't, but you know what? You're using them, and I'm like Mario has to continue that. Like we really on some old, like you feel me? Like hooked on phonics, bro. You're gonna make adjustments, and you want to motivate. Listen to me. You at least want to motivate your assistant coaches to suggest adjustments that need to be made. You got to. If listen, if Georgia did not make a series of adjustments, that is really what we're talking about. You keep saying you want to see how we stack up, bro. You don't make adjustments, you're gonna lose. That's how you stack up. You're gonna play Clemson. Dabo gonna have a plan. We
But
gonna
even
have
you're gonna lose because Georgia still lost that game. But if Georgia would have lost that game 56-7 versus losing by
Oh yeah,
56,
they would have ready to have Kirby head. But what I love about Kirby is that great coaches do adjust and they don't worry about that. And honestly, nobody expect them to dig themselves out of that hole. They
not
were
like
up.
that.
Nah. That was a coaching clinic.
Yeah,
Both
yeah.
of the listen, Dog
Both
was a
on both
coaching
sides.
clinic.
On both
Both
sides.
sides. That was a coaching clinic. But I will say that Kirby had the hardest because I'm like, look, to me, that like I said, I am thoroughly impressed by Georgia because teams ain't getting out that hole. You got to be you low key. You gotta be elite to legendary to dig out that hole
and to take a lead,
against
and then have a chance to either win the game or secure
what? That's what I'm saying. And then fucked
in the
around and
last
leave.
possession.
Listen, everybody was surprised. Alabama got quiet. Georgia was like, bruh, people. I know people in Georgia who was like, yeah, we stopped. We turned off the TV, turn it back on, and we up. Listen, Kirby is something special. Kirby earned my respect. I ain't never throwing salt on Georgia name. Now we ain't said. Listen, if Mario could be a corner of that, then the assistant coaches in the team. But I'm sorry to tell y'all, we not on that level. And honestly, for the rest now what's gonna show? Because here's the thing, they're just gonna scheme better, but you're gonna have to adjust sooner or later in great games. You gotta adjust. You
Yeah,
gotta adjust. You
yeah.
trying to tell me? So I want to. So when the fans got something to say, yo, Mario does not adjust. And even when Coach Hayes and these people do their analysis, they just go through the plays. And you know what? Nobody wants to bash somebody, but you got to stop lying to yourself because the outside noise is gonna tell us the truth.
Yeah.
Man, don't adjust. Got to adjust. But when you're winning, you don't got to adjust. When you're up, when you know you're good, then you can stick to your game plan. But what happens when you gotta adjust and you can't? But look, man, y'all jump in the comments.
Mhm.
Y'all know we done beat this down as a dead horse, but we are gonna give a pregame Macau. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do some more betting. Cause listen, I'm on a roll right now. Listen, I ain't been putting out my betting videos, but I've been betting with Alabama and I've been betting with James Madison. If you ain't betting with James Madison, I don't know what you're smoking. And I'm about to start messing with the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers because these boys want to play too. Because I forgot who they was playing. They were playing Boston College and they was up. They was up at the half. I don't know whatever that spread was, but I'm like, yeah, these boys is trying to win. And also, I bet against whoever Florida State playing, and I've been catching every week. They had SMU by 6. Oh, easy money. SMU gonna cover. So I'm gonna see who Florida State plays, and as long listen, I'm pretty much yeah. Right now, I think Cal is the only one, and I think Cal covered because he only won by 2 points. So yeah, whoever a Florida State plays, definitely be looking at them games because I'll be here for it, man.
Yeah, like my dog say, jump in the comments. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, all that, and then till next time, you play a partners from the bottom of the map.
From the bottom of the map,
We gone.
we gon'